Yuki Tanaka stood outside Lincoln Elementary School with her mother. Her small hands gripped her mother's fingers tightly. The big brick building looked nothing like her old school in Kyoto, Japan. Everything here seemed so different and scary. "You will be fine, Yuki-chan," her mother said softly in Japanese. "Just try your best." Yuki nodded but felt butterflies dancing in her stomach. She had been in America for only 2 weeks. The sounds, the smells, even the way people walked was different here. Back home in Japan, she knew exactly where everything was. She knew all her teachers and friends. Here, she felt like a small fish in a very big ocean. The morning bell rang loud and sharp. Children rushed past them, laughing and talking in fast English. Yuki understood some words, but when they spoke quickly, it sounded like music without any melody she could follow. Her mother walked her to the main office. The secretary, a kind woman with gray hair, smiled at them. "You must be Yuki," she said. Slowly, "Welcome to Lincoln Elementary." Yuki bowed politely, the way she had been taught in Japan. Some children nearby giggled. Her cheeks turned red. Maybe Boeing was wrong here. The secretary gave her a schedule and a map of the school. "Your first class is music with Mrs. Rodriguez," she explained. "Room 204, second floor." Yuki's heart jumped a little. Music was something she loved. Maybe this would be the one place where she could feel at home. Her mother hugged her goodbye. "Remember what Papa always says," she whispered. Music speaks all languages. Yuki climbed the stairs to the second floor. The hallways were long and filled with colorful posters she could not read. She found room 204 and took a deep breath before walking inside. The music room was larger than her old music classroom. It had a piano in the corner, guitars hanging on the wall, and drums near the windows. About 20 students sat in plastic chairs arranged in a circle. Mrs. Rodriguez stood at the front of the room. She was a tall woman with dark hair pulled back in a tight ponytail. She wore a blue dress and had a serious look on her face. "Class, we have a new student today," Mrs. Rodriguez announced. "This is ... She looked at her paper and struggled with the pronunciation. "Yuki Tanaka. She's from Japan." All the students turned to look at Yuki. Some smiled, but others just stared. Yuki felt very small under all those eyes. "Please take a seat anywhere you like," Mrs. Rodriguez said, pointing to an empty chair. Yuki sat down quietly. The boy next to her had blonde hair and freckles. He looked friendly enough, but when she smiled at him, he just looked away. "Today we're going to talk about American folk music," Mrs. Rodriguez began. "Can anyone tell me what folk music means?" Several hands shot up. Students called out answers about traditional songs and stories passed down through families. "Very good," Mrs. Rodriguez said. "Folk music tells us about our culture and history. It's very important to understand the music of your country." Yuki raised her hand slowly. Mrs. Rodriguez noticed and nodded at her. "In Japan, we also have folk music," Yuki said carefully in her best English. "We call it ... Nino. It tells stories too." Mrs. Rodriguez's smile became smaller. "Well, Yuki, that's nice. But we're in America now, so we focus on American music. Here, Japanese music is very different from what we study." Yuki felt her cheeks burn again. She had only wanted to share something from her home. The other students looked at her strangely, as if she had said something wrong. "Let's listen to this song," Mrs. Rodriguez continued, starting a recording of "She Be Coming Round the Mountain." As the music played, Yuki tried to follow along. The melody was simple, but the words were hard for her to understand. In Japan, she had learned many songs in different languages. Her piano teacher had always said that music was a gift that could be shared with everyone. After the song ended, Mrs. Rodriguez asked, "Does anyone here play an instrument?" Many hands went up. Students talked about playing guitar, violin, drums, and flute. Yuki raised her hand again. "I play piano," she said quietly. "Oh?" Mrs. Rodriguez raised her eyebrows. "For how long?" "Since I was 4 years old," Yuki answered. "In Japan I study at music school too." Mrs. Rodriguez looked surprised, but not in a good way. Well, piano lessons in Japan might be different from what we do here. American piano technique is quite advanced. Some students giggled. Yuki did not understand why this was funny. She had worked very hard on her piano playing. Her teacher in Kyoto had said she was very talented. Maybe you can show us sometime? Mrs. Rodriguez said, but her voice did not sound like she really meant it. Though I should warn you, our piano here is quite difficult to play. It's not like the simple keyboard some students are used to. Yuki looked at the piano in the corner. It was a beautiful black grand piano, much nicer than the upright piano she had practiced on at home. She wanted to tell Mrs. Rodriguez that she had played on grand pianos before, but something in the teacher's tone made her stay quiet. The rest of the class continued with learning about different American composers. Mrs. Rodriguez talked about people like Stephen Foster and John Philip Sousa. Yuki listened carefully, trying to remember the names and facts. When class ended, the students filed out quickly. Yuki gathered her things slowly, hoping someone might talk to her. But everyone seemed busy with their own friends. Yuki, Mrs. Rodriguez called as she was leaving. I hope you understand that our music program here is quite serious. We have high standards and specific ways of doing things. It might take you some time to catch up. Yuki nodded politely, though she felt confused. Catch up to what? She had been playing piano for 8 years. She could read music in both Japanese and Western notation. She had even performed in recitals back home, but she simply said, "Yes, Mrs. Rodriguez, I will try my best." As she walked to her next class, Yuki thought about her old music teacher, Tanaka-sensei. He had always encouraged her to explore different types of music. He said that learning about music from other countries made her a better musician. Here, it seemed like being from another country made her less than others. Not more. She touched the small piano pin on her backpack, a gift from Tanaka-sensei before she left Japan. Music speaks all languages, she whispered to herself, repeating her father's words, but as she sat through her next classes, struggling to understand lessons taught too quickly in English, Yuki began to wonder if her father was wrong. Maybe. Music here only spoke American. The day felt very long, and she missed her old school more than ever. 3 weeks had passed since Yuki's first day at Lincoln Elementary. Each music class made her feel smaller and more invisible. Mrs. Rodriguez had a way of making her feel like she did not belong. Today we're going to practice reading music, Mrs. Rodriguez announced to the class. She handed out sheets of simple songs. Remember, reading music is like reading a language. It takes years to master. Yuki looked at the sheet music. It was Mary Had a Little Lamb, written in very basic notation. She had learned to read music like this when she was 5 years old. Back in Japan, she was reading much harder pieces. Mrs. Rodriguez walked around the room, checking each student's work. When she reached Yuki's desk, she stopped. "Yuki, you're not following along," she said loudly. Other students turned to look. "I finished already," Yuki said quietly, showing her completed worksheet. Mrs. Rodriguez picked up the paper and frowned. "This is wrong. You've added extra notes that aren't there." Yuki looked at her paper again. She had written the melody correctly, but she had also added harmony notes underneath, the way her teacher in Japan had taught her. "In Japan, we learn harmony too," Yuki tried to explain. "I thought maybe ... Yuki," Mrs. Rodriguez interrupted, her voice getting sharper. "We're learning basic melody reading here. Harmony comes much later after students master the fundamentals. Perhaps you should focus on following directions instead of showing off." The word showing off hit Yuki like a cold wave. She had not been trying to show off. She was just doing what felt natural to her. "Sorry," she whispered, erasing the harmony notes she had written. Behind her, she heard 2 girls whispering. "She always thinks she knows everything," one said. "Just because she's from Japan doesn't make her special." Mrs. Rodriguez did not tell them to stop talking. The next week was even worse. During a lesson about rhythm, Mrs. Rodriguez was teaching basic time signatures. "A waltz is in 3/4 time," she explained, clapping her hands. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Yuki raised her hand. "Mrs. Rodriguez, what about other time signatures?" In Japan, I learned about 5/4 time and 7/8 time too. Mrs. Rodriguez stopped clapping. Her face looked annoyed. Yuki, we're learning the basics here. 3/4 and 4/4 time are what real music uses. I don't know what kind of unusual music you learned in Japan, but here we focus on proper Western classical tradition. Several students laughed. Yuki felt her face get hot. She wanted to tell Mrs. Rodriguez that she knew all about Western classical music. She had played Beethoven and Mozart and Bach, but she also knew beautiful Japanese pieces that used different rhythms and scales. Maybe you should just listen and learn instead of always trying to correct me, Mrs. Rodriguez added. Students who think they know everything usually know very little. More laughter from the class. Yuki sank lower in her chair. After class, a boy named Tyler walked up to her. Why do you always act like you're smarter than everyone? He asked. This is America. Nobody cares about weird Japanese music. Yuki did not know what to say. She had never said she was smarter than anyone. She just wanted to share what she knew. I don't think I'm smarter, she said softly. I just love music. Tyler rolled his eyes. Whatever. Maybe you should go back to Japan if you don't like how we do things here. That afternoon, Yuki sat alone at lunch. She opened her bento box that her mother had packed for her. The rice balls and pickled vegetables reminded her of home, but they also made her feel more different from everyone else. At the next table, she could hear some girls from her music class talking. Did you see how she corrected Mrs. Rodriguez? Again, one girl said. So rude. My mom says people from other countries don't understand American manners, another girl replied. They probably do things backwards over there. Mrs. Rodriguez is so patient with her. If I was the teacher, I would have told her to be quiet a long time ago. Yuki pretended not to hear, but each word hurt. She was not trying to be rude. In Japan, asking questions and sharing knowledge was considered good. Her teachers there had always encouraged students to think deeply about music. The next music class was about famous composers. Mrs. Rodriguez showed pictures of Bach, Beethoven, and Mozart. These are the masters of classical music, she said. They created the foundation that all serious musicians must learn. Yuki thought about her favorite composer, Toru Takemitsu. He was Japanese, but his music was played by orchestras all over the world. She had even heard the Chicago Symphony play one of his pieces on the radio. She raised her hand carefully. Mrs. Rodriguez, what about Toru Takemitsu? He is a famous classical composer too. Mrs. Rodriguez's eyes narrowed. Who? Takemitsu. He wrote music for orchestras and movies, very beautiful music. Mrs. Rodriguez shook her head. Yuki, I've never heard of this person. We focus on real classical music here, not whatever folk music you learned in Japan. Please don't interrupt. Our lesson with made-up composers. But he's not made up, Yuki said, her voice getting smaller. He won awards and... That's enough, Mrs. Rodriguez said firmly. Class, this is a perfect example of why we need to stick to proven, established curriculum. We can't waste time on every folk musician from every country. The class was completely quiet. Yuki felt tears starting in her eyes. Takemitsu was not a folk musician. He was famous all over the world. But no one believed her. After class, she ran to the bathroom and cried. She missed her old teacher so much. Tanaka-sensei would have been excited to hear about different composers. He would have asked her to bring recordings to share with the class. When she got home that day, her mother noticed her sad face. How was school today, Yuki-chan? Her mother asked in Japanese. I don't think I belong here, Mama, Yuki said, the words tumbling out with her tears. My music teacher thinks I don't know anything. She says I'm showing off when I just want to share what I learned. Her mother held her close. Some people are afraid of things that are different, she said gently. But that doesn't mean you should stop being yourself. Maybe I should just stay quiet, Yuki said. Maybe Tyler is right. Maybe I should go back to Japan. Oh, my dear daughter, her mother said, stroking her hair. You have so much to offer. The right people will see that. But Yuki was not sure there were any right people at Lincoln Elementary. Every day in music class felt like a battle she could not win. Mrs. Rodriguez seemed determined to make her feel small and wrong. The next day, Mrs. Rodriguez announced that they would have a quiz on American folk songs. "I expect everyone to know the songs we've studied," she said, looking directly at Yuki. "No excuses about learning different songs in other countries." Yuki studied hard that night, memorizing every song they had practiced. But when she took the quiz, Mrs. Rodriguez marked several of her answers wrong. Even though Yuki was sure they were correct, when she got her quiz back, she saw that her grade was a C-. At the top, Mrs. Rodriguez had written, "Needs improvement in following directions and staying focused on American musical traditions." Yuki stared at the paper. She had gotten every factual answer right, but Mrs. Rodriguez had taken points off for things like attitude and participation. She was beginning to understand that this was not really about music at all. The morning announcements crackled through the speakers in every classroom at Lincoln Elementary. Yuki sat at her desk, trying to focus on her math worksheet, when the principal's voice filled the room. "Attention students and staff," Mr. Thompson said cheerfully. "It's that time of year again. Our annual spring talent show will be held in 4 weeks. Sign-up sheets are available in the main office. We encourage all students to participate and show off their special talents." Yuki's pencil stopped moving. A talent show. Her heart began to beat faster. For the first time in weeks, she felt a spark of excitement. Around her, classmates were already talking excitedly about what they might do. Sarah was going to sing a pop song. Marcus wanted to do magic tricks. Emma planned to do a dance routine. All day long, Yuki could not stop thinking about the talent show. Maybe this was her chance. Maybe she could show everyone that she really did know about music. Maybe Mrs. Rodriguez would finally understand that she was not just showing off. When music class came that afternoon, Yuki felt nervous but hopeful. Mrs. Rodriguez was handing back their latest quiz about rhythm patterns. Yuki had gotten another C-, even though she knew all her answers were correct. "I'm very disappointed in some of your scores," Mrs. Rodriguez said, looking around the room. "Some students still think they can ignore our methods and do things their own way." Her eyes landed on Yuki when she said this. Yuki felt her cheeks get warm, but she tried to stay focused on her plan. "Now," Mrs. Rodriguez continued, "I heard the announcement about the talent show this morning. I want to encourage all my serious music students to consider participating. This is a wonderful opportunity to show the school community what real musical training looks like." She walked around the room, stopping at different desks. "Sarah, you have a lovely voice. You should think about singing something classical. Marcus, your trumpet playing has improved so much this year." Yuki waited for Mrs. Rodriguez to mention her, but the teacher walked right past her desk without saying anything. Finally, Yuki raised her hand. Her heart was pounding, but she knew she had to try. "Yes, Yuki," Mrs. Rodriguez said with a sigh. "I would like to play piano for the talent show," Yuki said as clearly as she could. The room got very quiet. Some students turned to look at her with surprise. Mrs. Rodriguez put down the papers she was holding. "Piano? Yuki, honey, this is a serious talent show, not a practice recital for beginners." "I'm not a beginner," Yuki said softly. "I have been playing for 8 years. Mrs. Rodriguez laughed, but it was not a kind laugh. 8 years of what kind of lessons?" "Yuki, I've seen your work in this class. You struggle with basic concepts. Our talent show has standards." Yuki felt like all the air had been sucked out of the room. "But I really can play," she said, her voice getting smaller. "Listen, dear," Mrs. Rodriguez said in a voice that sounded sweet but felt mean. "I'm sure you learned some simple songs in Japan. Maybe some folk tunes or children's music. But the piano piece for our talent show needs to be something impressive. Something that shows real technical skill and musical understanding." Several students were starting to whisper to each other. Yuki heard someone say, "She probably only knows chopsticks. What about if I audition?" Yuki asked desperately. "I could show you what I can play." Mrs. Rodriguez shook her head. "Yuki, I don't want to embarrass you. This isn't karaoke night at a restaurant. Our talent show represents the school." We need performers who can handle the pressure and deliver professional quality performances. But double quotes Yuki started to say. That's enough, Mrs. Rodriguez said firmly. Why don't you think about something more Your speed? Maybe you could do a presentation about Japanese culture? That might be more appropriate for someone with your background. The bell rang, ending the class. Students began packing up their things and talking excitedly about their talent show plans. Yuki sat frozen in her chair, staring at her hands. Don't feel bad, Tyler said as he walked past her desk. Not everyone is cut out for performing. Maybe you could be in charge of cleaning up after the show. His friends laughed. Yuki felt tears starting to burn behind her eyes, but she refused to let them fall, not here. Not in front of everyone. She gathered her books and walked slowly to her next class. All afternoon, she could barely concentrate on anything. During science class, while her teacher talked about the water cycle, Yuki's mind was spinning. She thought about all the pieces she could play. Chopin's waltzes that made her fingers dance across the keys. Bach inventions that were like mathematical puzzles made of music. The beautiful Japanese pieces her teacher had written out for her, with melodies that sounded like wind through bamboo. She thought about the recitals she had performed in back home. The way the audience would get very quiet when she played, and then applaud so loudly afterward. The way Tanaka-sensei would smile and bow to her after each performance. You have a gift, Yuki-chan, he had told her before she left Japan. Music lives in your fingers and in your heart. Don't ever let anyone tell you that gift is not real. But Mrs. Rodriguez was telling her exactly that. Every day, in every class, the message was the same. What you know doesn't matter here. What you can do doesn't count. After school, Yuki walked home very slowly. She passed the music store where she had seen sheet music through the window. She passed the community center where she had heard piano music coming from inside. Everything reminded her of what she was missing. When she got home, her mother was in the kitchen making dinner. How was school today? Her mother asked in Japanese. Yuk, I told her about the talent show and what Mrs. Rodriguez had said. Her mother's face grew sad and then angry. This teacher does not know you, her mother said firmly. She does not know what you can do. Maybe she's right, Mama, Yuki said tiredly. Maybe I'm not good enough for American music. Her mother stopped chopping vegetables and turned to face her daughter. Yuki Tanaka, that is not true. Music is music. Talent is talent. This teacher is wrong. But what can I do? She won't let me audition. She won't even listen to me. Her mother was quiet for a moment, thinking. There are other ways, she said finally. There are other people who can listen. That evening, after dinner, Yuki sat at the small keyboard in her bedroom. It was not the same as a real piano, but it was all they had been able to bring to America. She played softly, so she would not disturb the neighbors. She played a piece by Debussy that reminded her of water and moonlight. She played a Japanese children's song that her grandmother had taught her. She played scales and exercises, letting her fingers remember all the hours of practice, all the years of learning. As she played, she felt like herself again. Not the confused, quiet girl who could not understand her teacher's words. Not the outsider who did not know the right things to say. Just Yuki, who could make music. Her father came to her doorway and listened. When she finished playing, he smiled. Beautiful. As always, he said in Japanese. That teacher is missing something wonderful. Papa, what should I do about the talent show? Her father sat down on her bed. Sometimes, Yuki-chan, the people who are supposed to help us are the ones who stand in our way. But there are always other paths, other doors that can open. Yuki did not understand what he meant, but something in his voice made her feel a little bit hopeful. That night, she lay in bed thinking about doors opening, about other paths, about ways to show everyone what she could really do. Mrs. Rodriguez had said no, but maybe Mrs. Rodriguez was not the only person who could say yes. The next morning, Yuki walked to school with a new plan forming in her mind. Her father's words about finding other doors kept echoing in her thoughts. If Mrs. Rodriguez would not listen to her, maybe someone else would, during lunch instead. Of sitting alone as usual, Yuki walked to the main office. The secretary with gray hair, Mrs. Chun, looked up from her computer and smiled. "Hello, Yuki. How can I help you today?" Yuki took a deep breath. "I want to ask about the talent show. Is there someone else I can talk to besides Mrs. Rodriguez?" Mrs. Chin's eyebrows went up with interest. "Are you having trouble with your music teacher?" Yuki did not want to get in trouble by complaining about a teacher. She said, "I cannot audition for piano, but I really want to try." Mrs. Chun said thoughtfully. "You know, Mr. Thompson, our principal is in charge of the talent show. Mrs. Rodriguez helps choose the acts. But Mr. Thompson makes the final decisions. Would you like me to see if he has a few minutes to talk with you?" Yuki nodded eagerly. Mrs. Chun picked up her phone and spoke quietly. After a moment, she hung up and smiled. "He can see you now. His office is right through that door." Mr. Thompson was a tall, kind-looking man with a gray beard. His office had pictures of students and awards on the walls. He gestured for Yuki to sit in a chair across from his big desk. "Mrs. Chun tells me you want to audition for the talent show," he said gently. "What instrument do you play?" "Piano," Yuki said, sitting up straight. "I've been playing since I was 4 years old." Wonderful. How long have you been taking lessons?" 8 years in Japan, and I still practice every day here," Yuki explained. "My teacher in Kyoto said I was—" "What is the word ... advanced for my age?" Mr. Thompson leaned forward with interest. "What kind of pieces do you like to play?" For the first time in weeks, Yuki felt excited talking about music. "I love classical music, Chopin, Bach, Beethoven. But I also know Japanese traditional music and some pieces that mix both styles together." "That sounds fascinating," Mr. Thompson said. "So why haven't you signed up for the talent show yet?" Yuki's excitement faded a little. She did not want to say bad things about Mrs. Rodriguez, but she needed to tell the truth. "Mrs. Rodriguez said I could not audition. She said the talent show has standards and I am not good enough." Mr. Thompson's friendly expression changed. He looked confused and a little upset. "She said you're not good enough, without even hearing you play?" Yuki nodded. "She said I only know simple songs and folk music. She said it would not be professional quality." Mr. Thompson was quiet for a moment, tapping his pen on his desk. "Yuki, would you be willing to audition for me right now?" Yuki's heart jumped. "Really? You mean it?" "Absolutely. We have a piano in the music room. Let's go hear what you can do." They walked down the hallway together. Mr. Thompson had to use his keys to unlock the music room since it was lunchtime. The room was empty and quiet. Yuki looked at the beautiful grand piano in the corner. "Take all the time you need," Mr. Thompson said. Sitting in one of the plastic chairs, I walked to the piano and lifted the lid. The keys were clean and white, waiting for her touch. She sat on the bench and adjusted her position, just like Tanaka-sensei had taught her. "What would you like me to play?" she asked. "Whatever you feel comfortable with. Something that shows what you can do," Yuki thought for a moment. Then she placed her hands on the keys and began to play Chopin's Minute Waltz. It was a piece that required fast, precise finger work and careful attention to the melody. As soon as she started playing, everything else disappeared. The empty classroom, her nervousness, even Mr. Thompson watching her. There was only the music flowing from her fingers to the keys to the air around them. The notes danced and spun like leaves in the wind. Her hands moved across the keyboard. With confidence and grace, this was who she really was. This was what she could do. When she finished, the room was completely silent. She turned to look at Mr. Thompson and was surprised to see that his mouth was open in shock. "Yuki," he said slowly, "that was absolutely incredible." She felt her cheeks get warm, but this time it was from happiness, not embarrassment. "How long did you say you've been playing?" he asked. 8 years, sir." "And you can play other pieces?" "Like that? Yes, sir, many pieces." "Would you like me to play something else?" Mr. Thompson nodded, still looking amazed. This time, Yuki chose a piece by Bach, one of his inventions. It was different from the Chopin, more mathematical and precise, but equally beautiful. Her fingers found every note perfectly. creating the intricate patterns that made Batch's music so special. When she finished the second piece, Mr. Thompson stood up and started clapping. "Yuki, you are extraordinarily talented." "I cannot believe. Mrs. Rodriguez said you weren't good enough for our talent show, so I can audition officially?" Yuki asked, hardly daring to hope. "You don't need to audition. You're in." "Absolutely, definitely in." Yuki felt like she might cry from happiness. "Really?" "Really. In fact, I think you should be one of our featured performers. Do you have a piece picked out that you'd like to perform for the show?" Yuki thought about all the music she loved. "I have been working on a piece that mixes Chopin with the Japanese melody. I wrote some of it myself." Mr. Thompson's eyes got even wider. "You compose music too?" "Just a little. My teacher in Japan encouraged me to try creating my own pieces." "Yuki, you are exactly the kind of talent our show needs. Original, creative, and clearly very skilled." They talked for a few more minutes about the details of the show. Mr. Thompson explained that she would need to practice on the auditorium piano to get used to it. He also said he wanted to meet her parents and hear more about her musical background. As they walked back to the office, Mr. Thompson stopped. "Yuki, I have to ask. Has Mrs. Rodriguez heard you play piano?" Yuki shook her head. "She said she did. Not need to hear me. She said she could tell from my work in class that I was not ready." Mr. Thompson's face looked troubled. "I see. Well, I think she's going to be very surprised at the talent show." That afternoon, Yuki could barely concentrate on her other classes. She kept thinking about the feeling of playing the grand piano and about Mr. Thompson's amazed expression. When music class came, she felt different. She still sat quietly and tried not to draw attention to herself, but inside, she felt strong and confident again. Mrs. Rodriguez was talking about different types of orchestral instruments. She held up pictures of violins, trumpets, and French horns. "These instruments require years of training to master," she said. "Real musicians dedicate their whole lives to perfecting their technique." Yuki thought about the 8 years she had spent learning piano, about the hours of practice every day, about the recitals and competitions and lessons with Tanaka-sensei. For the first time in weeks, she did not feel small when Mrs. Rodriguez looked at her. She felt like she had a secret, a wonderful, musical secret that would soon surprise everyone. After class, Tyler came up to her again. "Hey, Japan girl, did you ever sign up for that talent show?" "Yes," Yuki said simply. "I did," Tyler laughed. "Seriously? What are you going to do, teach everyone how to use chopsticks?" His friends thought this was very funny, but Yuki just smiled. "I'm going to play piano," she said. "Right," Tyler said, still laughing. "Good luck with that." As Yuki walked home that day, she felt lighter than she had in weeks. The sun seemed brighter, and the spring air smelled like flowers and possibility. She had found another door, just like her father had said, and it had opened wide for her. Every day after school, Yuki made her way to the empty auditorium. Mr. Thompson had given her special permission to practice on the grand piano that would be used for the talent show. The auditorium was much bigger than any place she had performed before, with rows and rows of red seats that seemed to stretch forever. The first time she walked onto the stage alone, her footsteps echoed in the empty space. The piano sat in the center waiting for her. She ran her fingers along its smooth, black surface before sitting down to play. It was during her third practice session that she met Mr. Garcia. She was working on a difficult passage from her composition when she heard footsteps behind her. Yuki stopped playing and turned around nervously. A man in a janitor's uniform was standing near the stage, holding a mop and bucket. He was older, with kind eyes and gray hair. "Don't stop," he said with a gentle smile. "That was beautiful music." Sorry, Yuki said quickly. "Mr. Thompson said I could practice here. I have permission." No, you don't need to apologize," Mr. Garcia said, walking closer to the stage. "I clean this auditorium every day, but I've never heard anyone play like that. You're very talented." Yuki felt her cheeks get warm. "Thank you." "What's your name?" "Yuki Tanaka." "I'm Mr. Garcia. I take care of this building." He set down his cleaning supplies and really looked at her. "How long have you been playing piano?" Since I was 4 years old, 8 years now. Mr. Garcia whistled softly. 8 years and you play like that? Where did you learn? In Japan. I had a very good teacher there. Japan, that's far from here. What brought your family to Chicago? Yuki found herself telling Mr. Garcia about her father's work, about leaving Kyoto, about how different everything was in America. He listened carefully, nodding and asking questions that showed he really cared about her answers. It must be hard starting over in a new place, he said, especially when you're so young. Sometimes it is, Yuki admitted. Some people here think Japanese music is not real music. They think what I learned doesn't count. Mr. Garcia's eyebrows went up. What? Who told you that? Yuki hesitated. She did not want to get Mrs. Rodriguez in trouble, but Mr. Garcia seemed so kind and understanding. My music teacher says American music is different. She says I need to learn everything new, like I don't know anything. Mr. Garcia shook his head. That doesn't sound right to me. Music is music, no matter where it comes from. Talent is talent. That's what my mother says too. Your mother is a smart woman. Tell me, what piece are you working on for the talent show? Yuki's face lit up. Would you like to hear it? It's not finished yet, but ... I would love to hear it. Yuki turned back to the piano and began to play her composition. It started with a familiar Chopin melody, but then she wove in a traditional Japanese song her grandmother had taught her. The two melodies danced together, sometimes separately, sometimes joining in harmony. As she played, she forgot about being nervous. The music told a story about leaving home, about missing familiar things, about finding beauty in new places. It was her story, written in notes and rhythms. When she finished, Mr. Garcia was quiet for a long moment. Yuki, he said finally, that was one of the most beautiful things I've ever heard. Really? Really. You took two different kinds of music and made them into something completely new. That takes real skill and creativity, Yuki beamed. It had been so long since an adult at school had praised her musical abilities. Can I ask you something? Mr. Garcia said, sitting down in one of the front row seats. Sure. Have you always been able to do this? Mix different styles of music together? My teacher in Japan, Tanaka-sensei, taught me that music has no borders. He said the best musicians learn from everywhere and everyone. This Tanaka-sensei. Sounds like a wise man. He is. I miss him very much. Mr. Garcia was quiet again, thinking, Yuki, can I tell you something? She nodded. I've worked at this school for 15 years. I've heard a lot of student performances, concerts, recitals, talent shows. What you just played is professional quality. I mean that professional? I mean you could play that piece for adults who paid money to hear a concert, and they would be amazed. Yuki felt tears starting in her eyes, but they were happy tears. Why are you crying, Mia? Mr. Garcia asked gently. It's just ... Nobody here believes I can really play. Except Mr. Thompson. Everyone thinks I'm just pretending or showing off. Mr. Garcia's face got serious. Who thinks that? Yuki told him. About her experiences in music class, about Mrs. Rodriguez's comments, about the other students' reactions. Mr. Garcia listened with a frown growing deeper on his face. This makes me very angry, he said when she finished. Not at you, at the people who made you feel this way. I don't want to cause trouble. Yuki, speaking up for yourself isn't causing trouble. Hiding your talent because other people are uncomfortable. That's the real trouble. From that day on, Mr. Garcia became Yuki's biggest supporter. He made sure she had access to the auditorium whenever she wanted to practice. He brought her water when she got thirsty during long practice sessions. Most importantly, he listened to her play and gave her encouragement. Tell me about your life in Japan, he said one afternoon after she had finished practicing. I told him about the Kyoto Music Academy, where she had taken advanced lessons. She described the student concerts where young musicians performed for audiences of hundreds of people. She talked about Tanaka-sensei's teaching style, how he pushed his students to be creative and brave with their music. You were a star student, weren't you? Mr. Garcia said. I don't know about a star. But yes, I was considered advanced for my age. And here, People treat you like you don't know anything. Yuki nodded sadly. Well, that's going to change soon. When you perform at the talent show, everyone will see the truth. I hope so. I'm still nervous about performing for so many people. It's normal to be nervous. But remember, you're not just playing for them. You're sharing a gift. Your music is going to touch people's hearts. As the weeks passed, Yuki's composition grew more complex and beautiful. She added new sections that told different parts of her story. There was a section that sounded like wind chimes and temple bells, representing her childhood in Kyoto. There was a section with bold, strong chords that represented her courage in coming to America. This piece is becoming something very special, Mr. Garcia told her one day. It's not just music anymore, it's like a bridge between two worlds? A bridge? Yes, you're showing people that different cultures can come together and create something beautiful. That's a powerful message. Yuki had never thought about her music that way before. She had just been trying to put her feelings into sound. But Mr. Garcia was right. Her composition was like a bridge between the Japan she had left behind and the America she was learning to call home. Mr. Garcia, she said one afternoon, can I ask you something personal? Of course. Why are you so kind to me? Why do you spend time listening to me practice? Mr. Garcia smiled. Because I know what it's like to feel like an outsider. I came to America from Mexico when I was not much older than you. People told me I didn't belong, that I should go back where I came from. That must have been hard. It was. But I also met people who saw my worth, who gave me chances. Now I try to do the same for others. Thank you, Yuki said softly. You've made me feel less alone. You were never alone, Mia. You just needed to find the right people to see your light. With only 1 week left before the talent show, Yuki felt ready. Her composition was polished and powerful. She had practiced on the auditorium piano so many times that it felt like an old friend, but most importantly, she felt like herself again, confident, talented, and proud of where she came from. The little girl who had been made to feel small and wrong was gone. In her place was a young musician ready to share her gift with the world. The day of the talent show arrived with spring sunshine streaming through the school windows. Yuki woke up early, her stomach full of butterflies. She had practiced her piece so many times that her fingers could play it in her sleep, but performing in front of hundreds of people still felt scary and exciting. Her mother helped her choose a special dress, navy blue with small flowers, similar to something she might have worn for a recital in Japan. Her father braided her long black hair and pinned it up with her grandmother's pearl hairpins. You look beautiful, Yuki-chan, her mother said, adjusting the collar of her dress. But more importantly, you look confident. I feel ready, Yuki said, and she was surprised to realize it was true. When they arrived at school that evening, the parking lot was full of cars. Families were walking toward the auditorium, many carrying flowers and cameras. The excitement in the air was contagious. Backstage was chaos. Students in costumes and performance clothes were warming up, practicing their acts, and dealing with last-minute nerves. Yuki found a quiet corner where she could do her finger exercises and mentally review her piece one more time. Mr. Thompson appeared with a clipboard and a huge smile. How are all my performers doing? He called out cheerfully. When he spotted Yuki, he came over to check on her specifically. Are you ready for tonight? He asked kindly. I think so, Yuki replied. A little nervous, but excited too. That's perfect. Nerves mean you care about doing well. He looked at his clipboard. You're performing 8th in the program, right? After the middle school dance group? That gives you time to settle in and watch some of the other acts first. Just then, Mrs. Rodriguez appeared backstage. She was wearing a black dress and carrying a stack of programs. When she saw Mr. Thompson talking to Yuki, her eyebrows went up in surprise. Mr. Thompson, she said, walking over to them. I think there might be some mistake with the program. What kind of mistake? He asked. Mrs. Rodriguez pointed to her clipboard. It says here that Yuki Tanaka is performing a piano solo, but that can't be right. She's not one of my recommended students. Mr. Thompson's friendly expression became more serious. There's no mistake, Mrs. Rodriguez. Yuki auditioned for me personally, and she's extremely talented. Auditioned? But I specifically told her she wasn't ready for this level of performance. Well, Mr. Thompson said carefully, I had a different assessment when I heard her play. Mrs. Rodriguez looked confused and a little angry. Mr. Thompson, with respect, I am the music teacher here. I know my students' abilities. Yuki struggles with basic concepts in class. She's not prepared for a performance like this. Yuki felt her stomach drop. Even now, even after everything, Mrs. Rodriguez still didn't believe in her. I appreciate your concern, Mr. Thompson said firmly, but the decision has been made. Yuki will be performing tonight. Mrs. Rodriguez opened her mouth to argue, but Mr. Thompson had already turned away to help another student with a costume problem. This is going to be embarrassing, Mrs. Rodriguez muttered, just loud enough for Yuki to hear. I hope you know what you're doing. Yuki felt her confidence wobble for a moment. What if Mrs. Rodriguez was right? What if she failed in front of everyone? But then she remembered Mr. Garcia's words. You're not just playing for them. You're sharing a gift. She took a deep breath and found her inner strength again. The auditorium was packed. Every seat was filled with parents, grandparents, siblings, and teachers. Yuki peeked through the curtain and saw her own parents sitting in the third row, her father holding a small bouquet of cherry blossoms they had found at the flower shop. The show began with a group of kindergartners singing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. They were adorable, and the audience clapped enthusiastically. Next came a magic show, then a tap dance routine. Then Sarah singing a popular song. Each act got warm applause, and Yuki could feel the audience's good energy. They were excited to see what the students could do. When the middle school dance group finished their hip-hop routine, Mr. Thompson walked onto the stage with his microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, he announced, our next performer is Yuki Tanaka, a 6th grade student, who will be playing an original piano composition. Yuki heard her name and felt her heart start beating faster. This was it. She walked onto the stage, her blue dress swishing around her legs. The auditorium lights were bright, but she could still see the sea of faces looking up at her. In the third row, her parents were beaming with pride. The grand piano sat in the center of the stage, exactly where she had practiced so many times. She walked to it confidently, adjusted the bench, and sat down. Before she began playing, she looked out at the audience and spoke into the small microphone attached to the piano. This piece is called Bridge Between Worlds, she said clearly. It tells the story of leaving one home and finding another, and how music can connect different cultures together. In the audience, she could see some teachers looking surprised. Mrs. Rodriguez was sitting in the front row with the other faculty members, and her face looked worried and skeptical. Yuki placed her hands on the keys and took one final deep breath. Then she began to play. The first notes were soft and delicate, the opening melody from Chopin that she had learned years ago in Japan. But as the piece continued, something magical happened. The familiar Western classical sounds began to weave together with the pentatonic scales and rhythms of Japanese traditional music. The audience, which had been settling into their seats and whispering quietly, gradually became completely silent. The music was unlike anything they had ever heard, sophisticated and complex, but also deeply emotional and beautiful. Yuki's fingers moved across the keys with perfect precision, but more than that, she was telling her story through the music. The loneliness of being far from home, the confusion of not being understood, the joy of discovery and the hope of new friendships. As she played, she could feel the audience's attention like a warm embrace. They were really listening. They were understanding her message without words. Mrs. Rodriguez's mouth had dropped open. She was staring at Yuki with complete shock, as if she was seeing her for the first time. The piece built to a powerful climax, where both musical traditions came together in perfect harmony and then resolved into a gentle, hopeful ending that spoke of bridges built and new beginnings. When the last note faded into silence, the auditorium stayed quiet for what felt like forever. Then, slowly, one person began to clap. Then another. Then suddenly the entire audience was on their feet, applauding. TUNDEROUSLY.YUK. I stood up from the piano bench and bowed, the way Tanaka-sensei had taught her. The applause seemed to go on and on. She could see her parents crying happy tears. She could see Mr. Garcia standing in the back, clapping harder than anyone, and she could see Mrs. Rodriguez, still sitting in shock, finally beginning to understand the enormous mistake she had made. The standing ovation seemed to last forever. Yuki stood on the stage, overwhelmed by the thunderous applause filling the auditorium. She had never heard clapping so loud or so enthusiastic. People were not just being polite, they were genuinely moved by her music. In the front row, she could see Mrs. Rodriguez sitting with her hands pressed to her mouth, her eyes wide with shock and what looked like the beginning of tears. Next to her, other teachers were clapping and looking amazed. Mr. Thompson walked back onto the stage, his face glowing with pride and excitement. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said into his microphone, though he had to wait for the applause to quiet. "Down first. I think we can all agree that we have just witnessed something truly extraordinary." The audience erupted in another wave of applause. "Yuki," Mr. Thompson said, turning to her, "that was absolutely magnificent. Would you like to say a few words to our audience?" Yuki felt nervous about speaking, but she also felt brave. The music had given her courage. "Thank you," she said into the microphone, her voice clear and strong. "When I first came to America, I was scared that my music would not belong here. Tonight, you have shown me that beautiful music belongs everywhere, and that sharing our gifts makes us all stronger." The audience applauded again, and Yuki could see many people wiping tears from their eyes. As she walked off the stage, other performers backstage crowded around her. "That was incredible," said Sarah, who had sung earlier in the show. "How did you learn to play like that?" asked Marcus, the boy who had done magic tricks. Even Tyler, who had teased her about the talent show, came up to her with a different expression on his face. "Yuki," he said quietly, "I owe you an apology. I was wrong about you. That was amazing." Yuki felt a warm feeling spread through her chest. "Thank you, Tyler. That means a lot." The rest of the talent show continued, but Yuki could tell that her performance had been the highlight of the evening. People in the audience kept whispering and looking toward the stage, where she had played. When the show ended and all the performers came out for a final bow, the audience gave Yuki another standing ovation when Mr. Thompson introduced her again. Afterward, as families gathered in the lobby to congratulate the performers, Yuki found herself surrounded by people wanting to talk to her. "Where did you learn to compose music like that?" asked one mother. "Have you ever considered entering music competitions?" asked another parent. "My daughter takes piano lessons, and I've never heard anything like what you played tonight," said a father, shaking her hand. Mrs. Peterson, the school librarian, came up with tears in her eyes. "Yuki, dear, your music made me think of my grandmother's stories about immigrating to America. It was so beautiful and meaningful." Through all the congratulations and questions, Yuki kept looking around for Mrs. Rodriguez. She wanted to know what her music teacher was thinking now. Finally, she spotted Mrs. Rodriguez standing near the back of the lobby, talking quietly with Mr. Thompson. They both looked serious, and Yuki wondered if she was in trouble somehow. Her parents found her in the crowd, both of them beaming with pride. "Yuki-chan," her father said, hugging her tightly, "you have made us so proud tonight." "You played your heart," her mother added, "and everyone could hear it." Mr. Garcia appeared beside them, still wearing his janitor's uniform, but with the biggest smile Yuki had ever seen. "I told you that you were special," he said, giving her a gentle hug. "Tonight, everyone else finally got to see what I've been seeing all along." "Thank you, Mr. Garcia," Yuki said. "Thank you for believing in me when no one else did. And thank you for showing me that talent and beauty can come from anywhere," he replied. As the crowd began to thin out, Mrs. Rodriguez finally approached Yuki and her family. The music teacher looked uncomfortable and nervous, very different from her usual confident demeanor. "Yuki," she said quietly, "could I speak with you for a moment?" Yuki's parents looked concerned, but Yuki nodded. "It's okay," she told them. Mrs. Rodriguez led her to a quieter corner of the lobby. "Yuki," she began, then stopped and took a deep breath. "I owe you a very big apology." Yuki waited, not sure what to say. Tonight I realized that I have been completely wrong about you and your abilities. What you played up there. It was professional. Quality. It was genius-level talent. And I was too blind and too stubborn to see it. Mrs. Rodriguez's voice was shaking a little. I made assumptions about you based on where you came from, and that was wrong. I dismissed your knowledge and experience without even giving you a chance to show what you could do. Mrs. Rodriguez, Yuki said softly, I just wanted you to hear me. I know. And I refused to listen. That is on me, not on you. Mrs. Rodriguez looked directly at Yuki. I want you to know that I have spoken with Mr. Thompson, and things are going to change in my classroom. What do you mean? I mean that I'm going to learn about different musical traditions from around the world. I am going to ask my students to share their knowledge and experiences. And I'm going to make sure that every student feels valued and heard. Mrs. Rodriguez paused. Yuki, would you be willing to help me? Would you consider teaching some classes about Japanese music and how different musical styles can work together? Yuki felt surprised. She had expected Mrs. Rodriguez to be angry or embarrassed, not asking for help. You want me to teach? I want you to share your expertise. Tonight showed me that you know things I need to learn. You could help make our music program so much better. Yuki thought about all the weeks of feeling small and ignored. Then she thought about her composition and how it had brought together different musical worlds. I would like that, she said finally. I think music is better when we learn from each other. Mrs. Rodriguez smiled for the first time since Yuki had known her. You are a wise young woman, Yuki, much wiser than your teacher has been. As they walked back to where Yuki's parents were waiting, Mrs. Rodriguez stopped one more time. Yuki, I hope you can forgive me for how I treated you. I let my own limitations make me treat you unfairly, and I am truly sorry. Yuki looked at her teacher, really looked at her, and saw someone who was genuinely sorry and wanting to do better. Everyone makes mistakes, Yuki said. What matters is learning from them. Mrs. Rodriguez nodded, tears forming in her eyes. Thank you for your grace, Yuki. You have taught me more tonight than I have taught you all year. As Yuki rejoined her parents and they walked out to their car, she felt something she had not felt since leaving Japan. She felt like she belonged. Her. Music had built a bridge, just like Mr. Garcia had said. And now, finally, people were ready to cross it. 3 months after the talent show, Lincoln Elementary School looked very different. Walking down the hallways, visitors could hear sounds they had never heard before, the gentle plucking of a koto, the rhythmic beating of taiko drums, and the blending of Eastern and Western melodies floating from the music room. I sat at the piano in Mrs. Rodriguez's classroom, helping teach a lesson about world music to a group of fascinated fourth graders. The pentatonic scale uses only 5 notes instead of 8, Yuki explained, playing a simple melody. It sounds different from Western music, but it can be just as beautiful and complex. Mrs. Rodriguez stood beside her, taking notes and asking thoughtful questions. The teacher had changed dramatically since the talent show. She had enrolled in summer classes about multicultural music education and had spent weeks learning about musical traditions from around the world. Can you show us how you blend the Japanese style with classical music? Asked Emma, one of the students who had once giggled when Yuki spoke in class. Yuki smiled and began playing a piece that started with a batch invention but gradually incorporated traditional Japanese harmonies and rhythms. The students listened with wide eyes and open minds. That's so cool, said Marcus. It's like 2 different languages having a conversation. That's exactly right, Mrs. Rodriguez said. Music really is a universal language that can bring different cultures together. After class, Mrs. Rodriguez and Yuki walked together toward the main office. They were going to meet with Mr. Thompson about the school's new multicultural music program, which had become so popular that other schools in the district wanted to learn about it. Yuki, Mrs. Rodriguez said as they walked, I want you to know how grateful I am for your patience with me these past few months. You have worked very hard to learn new things, Yuki replied. That takes courage. I also want you to know that the school board has approved funding for our program to continue. Next year, we'll be able to bring in guest teachers from different cultural backgrounds and purchase instruments from around the world. Yuki felt excited. The program had grown far beyond what anyone had imagined. Students were learning about Indian classical music, African drumming, Celtic folk songs, and Latin American rhythms. The school had become a place where all kinds of musical traditions were celebrated. In Mr. Thompson's office, they found him talking with a reporter from the local newspaper. "Ah, here they are," Mr. Thompson said warmly. "This is Yuki Tanaka, the student whose performance inspired our whole program, and Mrs. Rodriguez, who has transformed her teaching approach completely." The reporter shook hands with both of them. "I'm writing a story about how your school has become a model for multicultural education. Can you tell me how this all started?" Yuki told the story of feeling invisible and misunderstood, and how music had become her way of building bridges between cultures. Mrs. Rodriguez spoke honestly about her mistakes and what she had learned, about the importance of listening to all students. "The truth is," Mrs. Rodriguez said, "Yuki taught me that my job isn't just to teach students about music, it's to learn from them too. Every student brings something valuable from their background and experiences." After the interview, Yuki walked to her locker to get her books for her next class. The hallways were full of students chatting and laughing between periods. Several classmates called out greetings to her as she passed. "Hey, Yuki," called Sarah. "Are you still planning to play at the spring concert next week?" "Yes," Yuki replied. "I'm working on a new piece that includes melodies from 5 different countries." "That sounds amazing. I can't wait to hear it." Tyler appeared beside them, carrying his trumpet case. "Yuki, my mom wanted me to ask if you give private piano lessons. My little sister heard your recording from the talent show, and she really wants to learn to play like you." Yuki felt a warm glow of happiness. "I would love to teach her. Music should be shared." At lunchtime, Yuki sat with a group of friends from different grades and backgrounds. There was Sarah, who was learning to sing Japanese folk songs. There was Marcus, who had started taking lessons on the shakuhachi flute. There was Emma, who was teaching Yuki about Irish traditional music. "My grandmother is coming to visit next month," Emma said excitedly. "She plays the fiddle, and she said she'd love to meet you and maybe play some music together." "I would be honored," Yuki said. "Maybe we could perform something together at the next school concert." Mr. Garcia stopped by their table, as he often did during lunch. "How are my favorite musicians doing today?" he asked with a smile. "Great," said Sarah. "We're planning a summer music camp for kids in the neighborhood. Yuki is going to teach piano, and we're going to have lessons in all different kinds of music." "That sounds wonderful," Mr. Garcia said. "You know, when I first heard Yuki playing in that empty auditorium, I knew something special was going to happen. But even I didn't imagine it would grow into all this." After school, Yuki went to the auditorium for her regular practice time, but now she wasn't alone. Several other students were there too, practicing their own instruments and sharing musical ideas. She sat at the piano and began working on her new composition. This one was even more ambitious than Bridge Between Worlds. It wove together melodies from Japan, America, Mexico, Ireland, and India, representing the backgrounds of students in her school. As she played, other students gradually stopped their own practice to listen. Without anyone organizing it, they began to join in. Marcus picked up his trumpet and found a harmony line. Emma started humming a counter melody. Sarah began keeping rhythm by tapping on her music stand. What emerged was something completely spontaneous and beautiful. A musical conversation where different traditions and voices came together to create something new. Mrs. Rodriguez appeared in the doorway of the auditorium, drawn by the sound. She stood quietly, listening with tears in her eyes as her students created music that represented the very best of what education could be. When the impromptu performance ended, everyone looked at each other and started laughing with joy. "We should record that," said Marcus. "That was incredible." "We should perform it at the spring concert," suggested Sarah. "We should teach it to other schools," added Emma. Yuk. I looked around at her friends. because that's what they were now, real. Friends who valued her for who she was. She thought about how different her life had become since that first terrifying day. When she had walked into Mrs. Rodriguez's classroom feeling small and invisible, now she felt seen, heard, and valued. More than that, she had found her voice, and learned to use it to help others find theirs too, that evening. As she practiced at home on her small keyboard, her parents listened from the kitchen. "She sounds happy," her father said to her mother in Japanese. "She sounds like herself again," her mother replied. "Like the confident musical girl she was in Kyoto." "No," her father corrected gently. "She sounds like more than that. She sounds like someone who has grown stronger from challenge and learned to turn pain into purpose." When Yuki finished practicing, she went to find her parents. "Mama, Papa," she said, "I want to thank you for bringing me to America." Her parents looked surprised. "Even though it was so hard at first?" her mother asked. "Because it was hard," Yuki replied. "If everything had been easy, I never would have learned how strong I could be. I never would have learned that my music could help other people feel less alone." Her father hugged her tightly. "You have become a bridge builder. Yuki-chan, that is a very important job in this world." As Yuki got ready for bed that night, she looked at the piano pin on her backpack, the gift from Tanaka-sensei that she still carried every day. Tomorrow, she would email him to tell him about everything that had happened. She knew he would be proud of how she had used music not just to express herself, but to create understanding and connection. Outside her window, the lights of Chicago twinkled like a million possibilities. This city was her home now, just as much as Kyoto had been. But more than that, she had learned that home wasn't just a place. It was anywhere people listened to your heart and valued what you had to offer. Her music had built bridges, just as her father had said. And those bridges had led her not just to acceptance, but to a community where everyone's unique gifts were celebrated and shared. The little girl who had once felt invisible had become a light that helped others shine brighter. 2.